I often think back to the years when my house was never quiet, when every corner echoed with the sound of children's laughter, the patter of little feet, the cries in the night that called me out of sleep. Those were the years when my children had gone overseas to work, chasing opportunities in faraway lands, while I remained behind with their children, my grandchildren, placed into my care. I never hesitated. I never complained. I opened my arms wide and said yes, because that is what mothers and grandmothers do. In those days, my mornings began before sunrise. I would rise quietly, put on my shawl, and go to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for the little ones. Bowls of warm porridge, slices of bread with butter, sometimes just rice and eggs when money was scarce. I would gently wake each child, braid the girls' hair, button the boys' shirts, and walk them to school. My hands were never idle, my body always tired, but my heart, it was full. When one of them was sick, it was me who stayed up through the night, placing cool cloths on their foreheads, whispering prayers, humming lullabies until their fever broke. When they needed help with homework, I sat beside them even when my old eyes could hardly read the small letters. When they cried because they missed their parents, I pulled them close and said, "I am here, my darlings. You are not alone. One day your mama and papa will come back, but until then, I am here." Years passed this way. My hair grew grayer, my hands more wrinkled, but I carried on. I attended their school plays, clapped the loudest at their graduations, wiped their tears after disappointments, cooked their favorite meals. I gave them my strength, my time, my love, everything I had. And though sometimes my body ached and my heart longed for rest, I told myself it was worth it. I was giving them what every child deserves, a home filled with love. When their parents called from overseas, I would hold the phone up to their ears, listening to the children chatter excitedly. I would assure my children, "Don't worry, I am taking care of everything. Your children are safe. They are growing well." And though sometimes I longed for my own children's presence, though sometimes I wished they would come home and take the weight off my shoulders, I pushed those thoughts aside. It was not about me. It was about the little ones who needed me. But time is a thief. Slowly my strength began to fade. The children grew taller while I grew weaker. The simple tasks, cooking, cleaning, even walking to the market, became harder. My knees pained me. My back ached. My breath shortened. Still, I tried to hide it, to keep up with everything as I always had. I did not want the children to worry. I did not want to be a burden. Until one day I could no longer hide it. I fell sick. It started with a fever that would not break, a weakness that kept me in bed. For the first time in many years, I could not cook, could not clean, could not even rise to greet the morning sun. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, praying silently that one of my grandchildren would come sit beside me, hold my hand, bring me a glass of water. But the house that once rang with their voices was now strangely quiet. The grandchildren were older now, caught up in their own busy lives. School, friends, jobs. They passed my door but rarely came inside. I heard them whispering sometimes, "Grandma is just tired. She'll be fine." But no one stopped long enough to truly see me, to notice how weak I had become. I waited day after day, hoping one of them would bring me soup, or at least sit by my side for a while. But my waiting stretched into emptiness. I told myself they must be busy. They don't mean to forget. They love me. They just don't know how to show it. Yet in the silence of those long nights, as I lay awake alone, my heart broke. I thought of the countless nights I had stayed awake for them, the sacrifices I had made, the love I had poured into their lives. And now, when I needed them most, they were nowhere. I had raised them all, but in my sickness I was forgotten. Sometimes I heard laughter in the living room, the sound of the television, the chatter of their young voices, and I would whisper from my bed, "I am here. Do you not see me? Do you not remember?" But my whispers went unheard. My children overseas called once or twice. I told them I was not well. They said they wished they could come, but Work was demanding, life was complicated. "Just rest, Mama," they said. "The children will take care of you." I wanted to say, "No, they don't. They are too busy." But I swallowed my words. What would be the use? The loneliness grew heavier than the sickness itself. My body ached, yes, but my heart ached more. To be surrounded by those you love, yet feel invisible, it is a pain deeper than any fever. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, I sat by the window wrapped in a blanket, my body weak but my mind wandering. I thought of the past, the countless meals cooked, the hands held, the tears dried. I thought of the nights I stayed awake, the days I gave everything of myself, and I asked quietly, was it all in vain? Did they not see my love? Did they not learn what love truly means? I felt tears on my cheeks, not from self-pity, but from the aching truth that perhaps the very ones I had raised had never truly understood. The days blended together, each one marked by the same rhythm: weakness in my body, silence in the house, and memories crowding my mind. I would close my eyes and see the faces of my grandchildren as they once were. Tiny, needy, full of life. I remembered carrying them on my back when their little legs grew tired on the way to school. I remembered spoon-feeding them porridge when they were sick, my hands trembling with worry but steady with love. I remembered sitting by their bedsides, whispering prayers through the night until their fever broke, feeling such relief when their little chests rose and fell in steady rhythm once more. Every memory was soaked in love, and yet, in my present weakness, those same memories pierced me like thorns. I wondered if they remembered those nights, those countless sacrifices, or had time erased them. Did they only see me now as an old woman lying in bed, no longer useful, no longer strong, no longer needed? Sometimes, when I felt too weak to rise, I listened to the sound of the house, the slamming of the front door as one grandchild rushed off to school, the thud of footsteps on the stairs, the low murmur of voices through the walls. They were all there, yet I felt so alone. I would wait for one of them to knock on my door, to sit for even a moment. But most days, no one came. One evening, as I lay staring at the ceiling, I heard laughter in the living room. The grandchildren were watching something on television, their voices rising with amusement. For a brief moment, I smiled. At least they were happy. But then a sharp ache tugged at my heart. How could they laugh so freely when their grandmother lay sick just a few steps away? Did they not think of me? Did they not wonder if I needed a cup of water, a warm meal, a gentle word? Tears slipped silently down my cheeks. I turned my face to the wall so that if anyone happened to peek in, they would not see my sorrow. But no one peeked in. No one noticed. My children overseas called again. "Mama, how are you?" they asked, their voices filled with concern but also distance. "Are the children taking care of you?" I wanted to tell them the truth. I wanted to say, no, they are too busy, too distracted, too caught up in their own lives. I feel invisible. But the words caught in my throat. I could not bring myself to make them worry. So instead I said, "Yes, don't worry. I am managing." When I hung up the phone, the silence pressed down heavier than ever. It was during one of those silent evenings that something changed. My eldest granddaughter, Maria, walked past my door. She must have noticed the light still on. Or maybe she caught a glimpse of me lying awake, for the first time in many days. She paused. She knocked softly and opened the door. "Grandma?" she whispered. I turned my head, surprised. "Yes, child?" She stepped inside, hesitating. I just came to see if you needed anything." My heart leapt. Such simple words, yet they carried more comfort than she could ever know. "I would love some water," I said softly. She hurried away and returned with a glass, holding it carefully, as if it were the most precious thing in the world. She helped me sit up, her young hand supporting my frail body. As I drank, she looked at me closely, and I saw something in her eyes that I had not seen before. Realization. "Grandma," she said quietly, "you look so tired. Why didn't you tell us?" I smiled faintly. Because I did not want to burden you. You all have your lives, your studies, your friends. I did not want to be in the way." Her eyes filled with tears. "But you're not in the way. You're the reason we even had a home. You're the reason we grew up safe. You raised us, Grandma. How could we forget that?" Her words pierced my heart, not with pain, but with hope. At last, one of them had seen. One of them had remembered. Maria stayed with me that evening, sitting by my side, listening as I told her stories from the past. I spoke of her childhood, of the nights I stayed awake when she was sick, of the little songs I used to sing to calm her fears. She listened with wide eyes, as if hearing it all for the first time, and when I finished, she took my hand and whispered, "I'm sorry, Grandma. We should have been here for you. I'll do better, I promise." That night, after she left my room, I lay awake, but for the first time in many weeks, my heart was not heavy. There was still sorrow, yes, but also a flicker of joy. Perhaps not all was lost. Perhaps my sacrifices had not been forgotten completely. Perhaps love, though buried under busyness and distraction, still lived in their hearts. The next morning, Maria returned with breakfast. Simple porridge, but she carried it with such care that it felt like a feast. As I ate, I watched her, and I thought to myself, this is what love means. Not grand gestures, not expensive gifts, but presence. A hand held, a meal shared, a quiet word of comfort. I prayed silently that her siblings would also see, that they too would remember. For love is not meant to be carried by one alone. Love is meant to be shared, to be lived daily, to be shown not only in times of strength, but especially in times of weakness. Maria kept her promise. From that day forward, she became my shadow. Each morning she peeked into my room before leaving for school, whispering, "Are you okay, Grandma?" She returned in the evenings with tea, sometimes with a flower she had plucked from the garden, and always with stories about her day. Her presence warmed me more than any medicine. But more than that, it stirred something in the others. At first, they watched quietly, as if unsure what to make of her sudden devotion. They had grown used to passing me by, to assuming I would always be there, quiet and strong. But Maria's simple acts of care made them uneasy. One afternoon, as Maria helped me with my blanket, her younger brother Samuel lingered at the door. He shifted uncomfortably before stepping inside. "Do you need anything, Grandma?" he asked, his voice uncertain. I smiled, patting the seat beside me. "Just your company, my dear." He sat down, fidgeting at first, but soon we were talking. I asked about his schoolwork, his friends, his dreams. His face lit up as he spoke, and for a moment, it felt as if the years had melted away, and I was once again the grandmother, raising little ones who needed me for everything. From then on, Samuel visited me more often, sometimes bringing a book to read aloud, sometimes just sitting quietly, and slowly the others followed. It was not sudden, not dramatic, but like the gentle blooming of flowers after winter. My room, once silent and forgotten, began to fill with footsteps, voices, laughter. One grandchild would bring me water, another would share their school stories, another would sit with me as I dozed. The transformation was not just in their actions, but in their eyes. They began to see me not as the background figure who had always been there, but as a fragile soul who had loved them fiercely and now needed their love in return. One evening, as we sat together, Maria asked softly, "Grandma, why didn't you tell us sooner that you were sick?" I looked at their faces, all gathered around me, and sighed. Because love is not meant to keep count. When I was caring for you, I never thought, one day they must repay me. I loved you because you were mine, because that is what family does. They shifted uncomfortably, guilt written on their young faces. I reached for Maria's hand and continued. But love must not be forgotten. Love is not only about receiving, it is about giving back. I do not regret a single day I spent raising you. Not a single sleepless night, not a single sacrifice. But when I fell sick and you were too busy, I wondered if perhaps I had failed to teach you the most important lesson of all. They were silent, waiting. That lesson, I whispered, is that love is shown in presence, not in words alone, not in gifts, but in being there when someone needs you. Anyone can celebrate in times of joy, but true love shows itself in times of weakness, in sickness, in loneliness. Tears filled Maria's eyes. Samuel hung his head. Even the youngest, who often stayed quiet, whispered, "We're sorry, Grandma." I squeezed their hands gently. Do not waste your days on regret. Let your love show now, while there is still time. Do not wait until I am gone to remember me. Do not wait until my chair is empty to realize its value. Learn now what it means to love, so that one day, when you have families of your own, you will not repeat the same mistakes. The room was filled with a heavy silence, but it was not the silence of neglect. It was the silence of hearts being opened, of lessons sinking deep. From that day, everything changed. The grandchildren began taking turns preparing my meals, sitting with me, helping me walk when my legs trembled. They laughed with me, asked me for stories, even sang old songs I had taught them when they were little. It was not about the chores they did. It was about the spirit in which they did them. No longer was I invisible. No longer did I feel forgotten. I felt seen, cherished, honored. And as I watched them, I realized that my sickness had not come to destroy me. Perhaps it had come to remind them, to awaken them to the truth that family is the greatest treasure, that love must be lived, not just spoken. One night, as they all sat with me in my room, Maria leaned close and whispered, "Grandma, I think God let you fall sick so that we would finally open our eyes. We forgot what you mean to us, but not anymore." Her words sank deep into my heart, bringing both tears and a smile. For maybe she was right. Maybe this illness, though painful, had been a blessing in disguise. The weeks that followed felt like a second spring in my old age. My body was still weak, yes, but my heart grew stronger every day. Where once there had been silence, now there was chatter and laughter. Where once I had felt abandoned, now I felt surrounded by warmth. Each grandchild found their own way to show love. Maria, always thoughtful, brought flowers to brighten my room. Samuel, once restless, now spent evenings reading aloud, his voice calm and steady. The youngest, shy but tender, slipped little drawings under my pillow. Stick figures of me smiling, always surrounded by children. I pinned those drawings on the wall where I could see them, because they reminded me that even the smallest gestures carry the weight of love. One Sunday, all of them sat in my room together, eating the meal they had prepared. The air was filled with the aroma of soup and bread, and I felt such joy that I had to close my eyes to hold back tears. "Grandma," Maria said softly, "we've been talking. We realized we don't know much about your life before we were born. Will you tell us?" I opened my eyes and looked at their expectant faces. For years I had carried my memories quietly, believing no one was interested. But now, here they were, hungry not just for food, but for my stories. So I began to tell them. I spoke of my childhood in the village, of the hard work in the fields, of meeting their grandfather and building a life brick by brick. I told them of the times of laughter, of loss, of perseverance. They listened intently, not interrupting, not distracted, their eyes wide as if each word was a treasure. When I finished, Samuel whispered, "Grandma, we had no idea you've lived through so much." I smiled gently. "That is the way of life, my child. Every wrinkle on my face, every gray hair, every trembling hand. They all carry a story, but often young eyes do not see them until it is almost too late." The room grew quiet again, but it was not heavy silence. It was reverence. That night, after they went to bed, I lay awake reflecting. My sickness had tested me, broken me, but also mended something that had long been frayed. It had reminded me, and them, that love cannot wait for tomorrow. It must be lived today. The next morning I gathered my strength and asked all of them to sit with me. They crowded into my little room, curious. "My dears," I began, "I want you to hear me carefully. You are young and life will always keep you busy. There will always be school, work, friends, and dreams pulling you in every direction. But in the middle of all that, never forget the people who loved you first. Never forget the ones who stayed up at night when you were sick, who gave up their comfort so you could have more. Time moves quickly, and one day you will look back and realize you missed your chance to show love when it mattered most." Their eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Love," I continued, "is not proven by words alone. It is proven by presence, by a hand held in sickness, by a meal shared in hunger, by a simple visit when the heart is lonely. Never let the people you love sit in silence, wondering if they are forgotten. Show them, remind them, because when the chair is empty, when the bed is cold, regret cannot bring them back." Maria began to cry quietly. Samuel clenched his fists, his jaw trembling. Even the youngest buried their face in their hands. I reached out, touching their shoulders gently. "Do not cry. I do not say this to burden you. I say this to free you. You have a chance now. A chance to love deeply, to live without regret, to carry this lesson with you into your own families one day. Let my weakness be your teacher, so you may walk in strength." They all nodded, their faces solemn, their hearts awakened. In the days that followed, something shifted permanently. The house itself felt lighter, warmer. The grandchildren not only cared for me, but for each other. They began to eat meals together again, to laugh, to share. It was as if my illness had breathed new life into our home. One evening, as Maria helped me settle into bed, she whispered, "Grandma, I used to think love was about big moments, birthdays, holidays, celebrations. But now I see it's about the small things, about being there when it's hard." I touched her cheek gently. "Yes, child, that is what love truly means." And as the days went on, I realized that though my body was fading, my spirit was alive in them. My sacrifices had not been wasted. They had learned, even if it took time. They had remembered. To those who listen to my story, I say this: never wait until tomorrow to show love. Tomorrow is not promised. Pick up the phone. Visit the one who waits silently. Hold the hand that trembles in the dark. Do not assume they know you care. Show them. For love is not about words spoken once in a while. Love is about presence, about action, about choosing someone even when life is busy. I raised them all, and for a time I thought they had forgotten me when I fell sick. But the truth is, love can be hidden under layers of distraction, and sometimes it takes pain to uncover it. Do not wait for pain to remind you. Remember now. Love now. Because one day it will be you lying in that bed, wondering if they will come, and the love you sow today will be the love you reap tomorrow. So I forgive them. Not because they asked perfectly, not because they deserve it, but because love is stronger than neglect, and I choose to leave behind not bitterness, but wisdom. Love, my dears, is never wasted. Even when it seems forgotten, it leaves seeds behind. And when the right season comes, those seeds will bloom.